What's up? Welcome to today's live stream, or I should say this evening's live stream. I'm him. Today is May 26th. I don't think I've done a live stream this year, or maybe I have. Maybe I've done a few. I definitely fell off on the live stream, but I'm back for today, and mostly just going to, I don't know, mostly be on the internet. I don't really have much of a plan. The work that I do now, unfortunately, it's not something that I can share with the rest of you. So there's not going to be much building on these live streams going forward. I do that on my own time these days. However, that being said, who knows? Maybe I'll end up working on some other stuff in an effort to make other aspects of my life a little bit easier. In any case, I wanted to talk about what's going on in the world today. I heard that there are some layoffs going on, and the reason why I don't really just know is because I am not in the industry any longer. I got laid off last January. Last January, and I haven't actually looked for a job, and I don't intend to, at least not this year. Maybe next year, we'll see how ventures go that I'm currently working on. So for that reason, I am not going to be sharing any things that I'm building. That being said, there are some technologies that I've been using that I do want to start to talk a little bit about that I want to share with the rest of you, and maybe start doing a little bit of technical reviews of dev tools, because I still do my own development, even though I don't technically do it professionally for others. I still do it professionally for myself. And I still use a lot of tools to do my work. Some of these tools are pretty incredible. They're new. So I'm still kind of excited about them. But some of them are like tools that I've been using for the past 20, 25 years that, at least now, I'm starting to recognize I take for granted that I actually know what the hell I'm doing with a lot of these things. I may start talking about those things if I get a sense that people would find value in that. Now, I will admit that right off the bat, just right now, me saying this, I don't think a lot of people get value from that. Just looking at the writing on the wall on YouTube, I'm noticing that a lot of the tech folks who used to do programming videos or tutorial videos, or just like how to build something, they're no longer doing that. And it seems that the audience for that is no longer here. In fact, it seems like the audience has moved completely over to developers who talk about tech, not necessarily show the actual technology. It's more of a entertainment type of thing, which, if you're entertained by it, so be it. It looks like I got a comment. Oh, yeah, what's up, Casual Economist? How you doing? Yeah. I'm hopefully, so I did try to do a live stream. I don't know what today is, but I tried to do a live stream at some point. It may have been yesterday. What's today? Today is Tuesday. Oh, yeah. It was yesterday. Yeah, Monday. I tried to do 2 live streams on Monday, and they both got kicked. Apparently, the video that I was reacting to, which was a cooking video, I want to be clear, it was one of those traveling videos where they just go to some foreign ass country and they're just like holding the camera while the people are just doing their thing. I was adding commentary, describing what's going on and whatever, but YouTube felt the need to take my stream offline. So after they did that twice, and I tried to get on for a third time, and I had a bunch of technical issues, I decided to just go on and do something more productive with my life. And I left, and I went to the Astrodome. And I'm sure I have my camera somewhere. I might actually end up editing some photos, because I went to the Astrodome. I didn't get a chance to go inside. I discovered that due to the FIFA, I live in Houston, Fort Worth. We have FIFA, the football World Cup something, coming here to Houston, and I discovered that they're using the entire NRG, like the stadium, the Astrodome, the stadium, the convention center, and some other things. They're using that full area to do something for FIFA because I saw a lot of FIFA stuff on over there. So yeah, I decided to not try my luck because technically, I was on the property and I wasn't necessarily supposed to be there. But what I found is that when you just go to a place and I don't know, I don't. I hate to say it this way, but like when you go somewhere and you carry yourself as if you are meant to be there, and like the people who are there are just workers, you'll be surprised at just how far you can go. But yeah, I didn't want to go too far with this because I had my dog with me, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to get into any issues. But I took some photos, none that I'm proud of, mainly because I didn't get to accomplish what I set out to accomplish, and that was mostly due to me being late, waking up late. I wanted to go inside the Astrodome, and I'm going to share my screen right quick just so that I can share what the Astrodome is, because I'm pretty sure that there are some folks, which is probably most of you, who are like, what the hell's the Astrodome? Because you're not from Houston. Well, it was the largest fully covered like indoor, what do you call those, stadium in the world when it was built back before I was born. But since it's kind of been relegated to a state of disrepair, it's going to cost the city too much to demolish it. I think it was like $55 million or something crazy to demolish it. And it also costs the city too much to renovate it. And it's in such a state of disrepair to where like even if we want to renovate it as a city to make it into some type of third space, it's way, 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 way too expensive. At least for a public type of initiative. Now, for a private or maybe a public-private partnership type of initiative, maybe. But anyway, it's right next to the NRG Stadium, which I want to say is the second or first stadium that has a retractable roof. I want to say Minute Maid Stadium, when that was built for the Astros. That may have been the first stadium. Let's see, first stadium with if I can spell this, retractable roof. Oh no, never mind. I lied. Okay, it was in Canada. Okay, we're not okay. Okay, so we're the first for the NFL. Okay, got it. So NRG Stadium, which is the stadium. I just realized that maybe I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that. My bad. Okay, yeah, here we go. I just realized that I wasn't sharing my screen for the dome, but here's the dome, the Astrodome. For those of you who are actually watching, like, what is he talking about? Here's the Astrodome. It's literally a dome, and it's impressive. Like it's really impressive in person. It's hard to articulate just how impressive it is in person, but it was the largest stadium, I want to say, in the world for a while. I would love to go inside the stadium today to see what it looks like. I haven't been inside the stadium since I was a kid. I think the last time I was in the Astrodome, the Oilers were still a Texas team. They had not yet moved to Tennessee, I think, because they became the Tennessee Titans or something like that. So yeah, I'm old enough to have remembered the original football team and going to the skyboxes with my dad and my grandfather, because they had skyboxes for the NFL games, and I would just go. So yeah, it's been a very long time, and I would like to go back while I still have the chance, because as I get older, I'm starting to see that a lot of the things that I grew up seeing, the things, buildings, or I guess like destinations, points of attraction or points of interest, that type of thing. None of those are here anymore. Like Astroworld, for instance, every year since I was, middle school, maybe elementary school, I would, save all of the coins that I would have to, change. That was the thing. I would put them all in my little 5-gallon, a 5-gallon water jug. And at the end of the year, basically in the end of the school year, I would have enough money, I hate that I had to share it, but like I would have enough money to get me and my older sister season passes to Six Flags. We did this every year. And for the most part, we would go like 3 or 4 times a week. Now you fast forward to today, Astroworld is no longer here. So something that was a part of my childhood growing up that made Houston special, no longer here. And that's not it. That's just like something that big that I can think of just off the top that I think most of you would be able to appreciate yourselves. You know, maybe there are some attractions or some types of things that you used to do as a child, and you know, due to, I don't know, capitalism, I guess, they decide that we got to shut the thing down because it's not making enough profits. So, you know, something that you grew up going to, that was a big part of your life, is no longer there. Anyway, all that to say is the Astrodome still exists. And while it still exists, I would like to go. Anyway, Minneapolis had a dome, but it collapsed from too much snow. The Metro Dome. Maybe look that up. Metro. Like, so if Minnesota, my assumption, I've never been to Minnesota, but my assumption about Minnesota is that it's always cold, and it's always been cold. So my question is, if you are going to build a domed stadium as an engineer, why wouldn't you make a heated roof or some type of roof where it's like damn near impossible for snow to stay up there? Because we all know that snow or any form of water is heavy. That's why it's heavy, right? And the cool thing about snow is it melts. So like, you could like have an electric current. I know it'll probably be expensive, but I imagine that's cheaper than having your entire stadium just fall apart because the roof is too heavy, because there's snow on top of the roof. Maybe not. Ah, shit, that was an accident. Okay. Let's see here. I'm still sharing my screen. Oh yeah, I am still sharing my screen. Okay. Anyway, so I briefly said that I want to talk about some tools. I'm not going to necessarily talk about this tool right now, but it just happened to be here. I just realized that it was here in the background. This is one of the tools that I'll be going over in the future. This is actually kind of cool. In fact, I want to say I might have some models running. Maybe. Let's see. Where's my terminal at? Okay, so shit. All right. So I had to find it by looking at the amount of memory being used, because I don't actually remember the name of the process because I'm dumb. Actually, there's another one that I prefer to use for doing that type of thing. Okay. I wonder if I'm not right. Did I shut down the model? Let's see here. Test. It's definitely here. Huh. Okay. Tell me something nice. I'm only doing it to see if it's doing it on my local machine or not. I think this is. I want to say this is the local one, the local Gemma 3. Anyway, this is one of the tools that I'll be talking about in the future, not today. All right. So just so happened to have it open on accident. mainly because I started my live stream without first preparing like I normally do. All right, let's go ahead and quit all of that out. Get rid of that, and we'll get back into YouTube. If I can spell. Okay, I had a video that I wanted to watch on the live stream. It's part of the reason why I actually started the live stream. Yes, here we are. Found it. So I'll go ahead and start from the beginning. Hopefully, I don't get banned again for having this video on here. So in an effort to kind of maybe help me not get banned, maybe I should like come up with a new scene or something. Okay. All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and, shit, didn't mean to do that. There we go.
There's this question that's been bugging me about the CEO of Starbucks, Brian Niccol. On the one hand, he seems like a pretty typical rich guy, $14,000 espresso machine, commutes on a private jet. I asked people outside my neighborhood Starbucks how many times they thought you'd have to multiply the average barista's salary to get to what Niccol made last year.
You're way down here, I think.
So I took my own guess when I was watching this before I decided to come and do this live stream. And I saw the scale that she had, where it's basically it goes from basically like 0x to 2000x times, right? So let's say I'm the CEO of my company and I'm paying myself $250,000 a year. Okay. What I learned is that if I were to scale myself to a corporation, my pay package would basically be, if I were to do the same shit that the rest of the corporations are doing, which I wouldn't want to do, would be almost 2,000 times more. 2,000. That's a lot. That means that I would be making what, 50 million a year, while my top employee makes maybe 250K. It's kind of, I don't understand why we have allowed, as a nation, as a people, this to occur. Now, I understand that, in America, a lot of people have this idea that they're going to be one of the ones that makes it. No, they're going to be the one that gets rich. I don't know if I'm cynical, and I really don't mean to, to like throw water on a parade, but the likelihood of you or anyone that you know becoming rich is not that high. It's quite small, actually. And on some level, you have to be, I think you have to be lucky. At least that's, in my case, that's how it happened for me. I like to tell people I got lucky. I happened to be right time, right place, right skill set, right competency, for the environment that I'm going in, like the right type of attitude, right, just a lot, right. It's a confluence of things that went well for me. And all of those things were not things that I had control over. And for whatever reason in this country, we have, and I hate to say it this way, but I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not that sorry, but we have classes in this country, right? And what baffles me is how I will see poor people like glazing and basically just like running defense for people who are wealthy, and they'll, I guess in their mindset, they're like, well, like, I don't want these types of things to happen because what if I get rich? And It's quite silly in my opinion. Um, yeah, it's quite silly. It doesn't make me feel good to know that I live in a country where the vast majority of people make 3 to 4 times less than me. I'm not a CEO. Well, I'm not that kind of CEO yet, but like I'm not I don't make that much money, right? And it doesn't make me feel great to have to live in a country where there are people who are struggling when I myself don't make it's like it doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense. We really should have a country in which every American can live with dignity. And I don't think that we can achieve that when we have, let's just say, a few hundred individuals in the nation owning 50, half the wealth. I made that number up. I made that number. I don't actually know the percent, and I could look it up, but I'm not because we're watching this video. Yeah, bro. I don't get it. Like I really don't get it. Or maybe you don't know. I'll share some insight. I didn't grow up rich. I am very much what you would consider like lower working class. That's where I come from. Single mother, that type of stuff. No college education, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't come from money. That being said, I've always been around people with money because of a bunch of reasons. I don't want to get into too many details, but my father, he did okay. As well, and my grandfather, he did okay as well. And he knew some folks, and because of that, I happen to know some folks. So I've always been around extremely wealthy people, and I mean, like, I won't say the name of this person, but they're worth $250 million. Like it's a family with money, right? So I've always been around people's money. College also, and then I myself made my own. And one of the things that I started to realize very early is that, well, most of the things that are allowed to us that for instance, in America, we do have this special thing in our country where you can be born poor. You can be born, it doesn't matter where you're born. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter your race or any of that kind of crap. You can actually climb the social ladder here in this country. That was the case for a long time, even though there was a bunch of other things that sucked. That's been the case for a long time. Fast forward to today, that's no longer the case. So the fact that we have this earning gap between the CEO and regular workers, while at the same time we're in an economic situation where we are now devaluing the work of human labor. That's actually what's happening. This is going to be a big issue. I won't say what I really feel here, but I'll just give a hint. There is a video game character by Nintendo. There's a plumber. If things don't change, we're going to see more of those plumbers coming out. And yeah, there are two ways to equality. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's just a case. It's just a fact, right? Like there's two ways that we can achieve equality. We can achieve it the easy way, or we can achieve it the hard way. And increasingly, it seems as if the ruling elite are choosing the hard way, which, it's hard for me not to call them stupid because I'm a student of history. There has never been a ruling class ever in the history of this earth that has withstood a populace who no longer wants to tolerate them. And we forget so quickly because the last time this happened Well, the French Revolution wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago when the last czar of Russia, when we don't have czars anymore. It wasn't that long ago when most of the countries who we consider allies, who are democratic allies, that they were monarchies or dictatorships. It wasn't that long ago. Anyway, let's get to this video. There's some interesting points in this video I want to get to.
1,800, I'll say like 1,600.
It's 1,794.
All right, now let that sink in. That number disgusts me. And this isn't, I'm not saying this from an employee's perspective. I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who has owned a business in the past. I'm trying to build a new business now. That's disgusting to me. I would not feel proud to own a company in which I am making 1,800 times more than anyone else in my company. I would look at that as a failure of me, because a big part of what drives me is others. It's like, yeah, like, sure, you can make money with a company. Here's a fun fact that you don't learn until you have money. Money doesn't really change shit. Right? You get it and it's there. Right? There's more to life than money. You know, being greedy never really leads to good things. I think this is way too out of whack. 1,800, that's unacceptable for a country for a nation that likes to call itself a free nation. We cannot have freedom if we have individuals who in a single year make 1,800 times more than the individuals who they employ in the company. They're like that. We cannot have freedom that way because, well, as we see all the time, money tends to control things. So if money can supplant your rights as a human, then how the fuck are you free?
People get it. This gap is almost like a shorthand for understanding the entire economy. But here's what they don't get.
Now we're gonna go back in time to 1980. What do you think was the gap between the average CEO in 1980 and his workers?
By 500.
Like 1,000, I don't know.
So back in 1980, the average gap.
I remember when I was in school, I think this was when I was in college, or it may have been when I was in high school. I forget, high school or college. The multiple was 400x. I graduated just to give some perspective, I graduated high school in 2007. So that's almost 20 years ago. So back when I was in school, that multiple was not 1,800, it was 400. And even back then, I felt that was too high. Now, I was not in the position that I'm in today. Obviously, I was, a kid, basically. Hadn't made my way yet. But I thought it was too much then, just the feeling. But as a 37-year-old man who has made his way, I think that's way too much. It's way too much. There is no reason for that. And I can't understand why someone would want to live in a country where they have people who are, well, it's going to be more than 1,800 times poor, because that's the multiplier for a year. But let's just say at a minimum, they're going to be 1,800 times poor. Like, why would you want to live in that type of society with that much inequality? I've been to other countries, and a lot of them are unequal societies. And that's been one of the things that's always struck me about countries outside of America, especially in Africa, Middle East, or Asia, whatever, like the wealth disparity. South America too. And every time I'm like, I am so grateful that I live in a country where the wealth disparity isn't this great. But shit, like after 20, 30 years, our wealth disparity has become insane. Every single day, I see homeless people in my neighborhood. Every single day now. When I moved here to this particular neighborhood 8 years ago, you wouldn't see a homeless person in a 5-mile radius. And that, honestly, that's been the case ever since I was alive. I live in what's considered I live in a decent part of, I'll just say it. I live in a good part of the city, right? So it's like, I live here, and my entire life, this area has been nice. Fast forward to today, it's becoming a shithole. Like truly a shithole. I think a lot of that has to do with corporations extracting wealth from the middle class as well as from poor people. For whatever reason, we have produced a society of people who don't give a fuck about their fellow brothers. They're like, we're like, if we're all Americans, right? We're all on the same team. That's my understanding, right? So if we're all on the same team, why would you want to play on a team and then say, you know what? I don't want to give you any of the gains. It's like, we have a trillion, I don't know how many trillions of dollars, let's just make up a number. Let's say $25 trillion GDP. I know GDP is bullshit, but $25 trillion GDP. Why is it that out of the entire country of 350 million ish, how come it's only 300,000 people who get the majority of that 25 trillion of wealth that was created? And I know why. It's structural. I understand it. I get it. I mean, I benefit from it in a sense. If you are someone who earns only a salary, like you trade your time for money, like you're never going to be able to get ahead. And that's unfortunate. Part of this is due to government policies. The policy of the government is to spend recklessly without having the money to actually back the investments or the spending that they're doing. So we get inflation, which causes everything to go up, but your wages don't go up. Now, if you're on the other side, and this is why I say, like, I kind of exist in both realms where, I've worked, regular hourly wage jobs in the first half of my life. I've worked regular salary jobs where you get a salary, you just do your work, you get a salary. I've worked that. I've worked jobs where I have a significant piece of equity in the company. Like I have a stake in the company. I've also done things where like, that's the only thing I have. I don't get any type of salary. Like my compensation is entirely based on the company's performance. Now, this is where things get a little bit, I'm still working it out myself, but in order to make that kind of money that they're doing, you have to put up capital. And for whatever reason, that seems to be like the only thing, unless you have like a very valuable skill set and you can market and sell yourself. For the most part, the only way that you're going to get into the upper echelons is if you get some type of ownership into something. But companies these days are not offering employees ownership into anything. It's almost as if our American companies have been captured by a certain ruling elite of, let's just call them international bankers, who have hollowed out our economy. And it only works for a certain class of people. And that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And it scares me. And I know it's selfishly, right? I'll admit. See, I've read some books. In one of the most recent social things that happen that I'm afraid of happening here is the Cultural Revolution that happened in the 60s and 70s in China before, gosh, what's his name? Deng Xiaoping. Is this Deng Xiaoping? Before he came into power and basically like threw all that shit out. The reason why that scares me is because I have read firsthand accounts and autobiographies of people who lived through it. And a lot of the things that they described, especially relating to children and education in schools and all of the things that we're starting to see here, it was happening there. That's what worries me, because I happen to know that even though I consider myself like part of like an everyday person, I don't come from wealth. I understand that in those types of environments, even if you have a little bit of something, like people, anger and resentment and jealousy, envy, all of those are real emotions. And we have a whole population of men and women who are raised by shitty parents. I don't even hate to say it. Most of the shitty parents were from my generation, millennials, the soft parenting, not really disciplining the children, treating them like friends and all that kind of shit, letting them do whatever they want. Well, these same children are in school now and, they're not really performing very well, and they're causing teachers to quit. And in some cases, they are attacking teachers. They did this in China too, just FYI, just so you know. And it did not lead to anything productive happening. It fucked them until the 80s, and they didn't really get out of that until the mid 2000s, and it's taken until now for them to get to where they are. And even now, they're still behind where they could have been. Anyway, let's go into this video.
And their worker was 42.
That's crazy.
In just over 40 years, an economy built on trickle-down policies has locked an entire generation out of the American dream.
Yeah, that was the political thing that I grew up in when I was younger. Even though I wasn't really old enough to truly get it, in the early 90s, this is what I heard a lot of. Like trickle-down economics. I remember hearing this throughout starting from 93, 94, 95. For what it's worth, I've always been fairly cognizant. I have a very good comprehensive ability, even from a young age. So I do understand that I was a child at that time, but I remember hearing these things. I remember people talking about them. I remember, I could also read from early age. So I also remember seeing it in the newspapers back when we still had newspapers. Oh man, I'm kind of thinking of leaving the U.S., maybe at least getting some property in another country. So a lot of people in this country, they have that idea to try to go to another country and try to get some property. I will warn you that is incredibly difficult to do. Now, I'm not saying this about you, but just in general about a lot of Americans, especially who have a certain ideological tilt. For whatever reason, a lot of them have this idea in their head that because they're American, they can just go to whatever other country on earth that they want, and they can just buy land because we have money and everyone wants dollars. But what you'll find out is that most countries does not allow non-citizens, non-nationals to purchase or own property in their countries. That's most countries. Just FYI. And turns out it goes even further than that. Most countries, you need permission to enter, even as an American. Well, not most. We can enter into a lot of countries just on a passport, but in general, you gotta go through their immigration process, whether it's passport, visa, whatever. They have sovereignty over their land. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. If you are going to try to go buy some property, just remember that. Now, I happen to know some folks who do purchase property in countries around the world. They're not from here. They're from another place. I won't say where. But the way they do it is they do it through shell companies. So they own the companies and all that kind of stuff. The board and all that. I don't really understand their corporate structure. It's very is very sophisticated because it's kind of like a sovereign, which is why I won't name the country. It's like a sovereign thing for a country. And what they do is when they buy a house, like they're really just buying it and the company owns it. And the company is based offshore in a lot of the countries where they operate in that have like free economic zones, whatever. The companies can do that type of stuff. But yeah, it's just something to be wary about. Also, property rights. That's something that I think a lot of Americans, we take for granted. You know, we have incredibly strong property rights, and it just so happens that we have that because the founders of this nation, they believed that in order to have a prosperous economy and like all of the things that we want, we need to have. Give me a second. Sorry. Text message. So I'm trying to, like, before I started the stream, I asked one of my neighbors if I can have something that I want right now. He was like, I need to eat first. So I'm trying to figure out like what the deal is because it's almost 9 o'clock. I just now realized it's almost 9.
Trickle-down policies has locked an entire generation out of the American.
That's, yeah. America's first-time home buyer is now 40. Now, I'm almost 40. I don't own a home. I did try to buy a home once. I got, they basically reneged on the offer and it just pissed me off. And I decided to just say, fuck it. But yeah, like I often think about this because my grandfather was able to buy a house in his 20s. Like, in his early 20s, from what I remember, he moved from Dallas area, like Waco area. And he was able to buy a house. And he had 2 children and a wife. And they had multiple cars. They had satellite dish TV, like all of the things that, you know, black people back then, that wasn't normal. Like they had all of that stuff. And I know for a fact that my grandfather never made more than $40,000 a year. So you have to understand, like coming from me, like it's kind of confusing that his grandson, who for the past, 10 years, I've made $250,000 a year. I don't have a house. Now that's not to say because I can't really get one. It's just, I'm not willing to live in the kind of house that I can afford. I have a very different view of affordability than a lot of folks. I don't believe that just because I have money means that I can afford it. It's very different how I do my calculation of can I afford it. But there is no way I can afford a $500,000 house in the hood. Just no way. I can't do it. Even making $250,000, it's just not, no. I'm only willing to spend 12, maybe 13% of my take home, not even like what I see at the end of savings, taxes, investment, like all that take home. I am unwilling to spend more than 15% of my take home on a place to live, which is why I can't afford a house, which is why I currently rent. Because some people are like, oh, you got money, you just buy a house. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, my bank account don't work that way.
So here's the question that's been bugging me. If the economy wasn't always this way, is it possible to go back? In the next few months, voters in 2 different cities will have a chance to find out. Ballot initiatives in Los Angeles and San Francisco could force corporations to start closing those gaps, but they're spending big, along with a handful of billionaires, to make sure that this popular tool for unrigging the economy doesn't spread.
What should the solution to these people be? Because it's becoming very clear to me that they are not going to just let go, on their own volition. I don't think they're just going to be like, you know what? I think we want to be good people. I think we want to put the nation's interest ahead of I don't think that they would ever do that. Ever. So what is the solution going to be? I actually know what the solution is. It's the solution that's always been. Unfortunately, due to YouTube's community guidelines, I cannot say what those solutions are. But what I could encourage you to do, if you want to learn about those solutions, is go to a library. Go to a library and go to any of the sections where there's history. Any of them. Any like revolution or like some type of independence movement or a regime change, like whatever. Just read some history books. And what you'll find is that the solution is always the same, which is why I think that our ruling elite, and I'm going to call them rulers now because I don't think that they're working for us. Our ruling elite, what's the first thing they always say about how you should organize or how you should protest or just how you should be in general? They always want to say, nonviolence. Like they always want to make sure to reserve a monopoly on violence for themselves. And until people wake up and realize that no, these people do not in fact have a monopoly, I don't think things are going to change. And I think things are going to get worse from here until we get to that point. And that's going to be a bad world for all of us to live in, not just the people who are being blamed for the current state of the world. Now, sure, we can point fingers and say, yes, all their fault, all the billionaires' fault. I actually don't believe that. I don't think that we can arrive to the results that we've gotten in this country without first having had a culture that is capable of producing such results. We have a culture that puts money or capital above all. I guess it's capitalism, but that doesn't necessarily mean that our social, like our economic, like how we organize ourselves economically, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to also apply to how we organize ourselves socially. But for whatever reason in this country, we've allowed the way that we organize ourselves economically to also impact in a very material way how we organize and how we relate to each other socially. That's a cultural problem. So while it would be nice, it would be easy, I should say, it would be easy to just say, lay this all at the feet of the government, of the politicians, of the billionaires, of anyone who owns a corporation, like, or owns a piece of it, including myself, the investor class. Like, it's very easy to just say, you know what, it's all your fault. Very easy to do that. I think it's a lot harder to take a step back and try to arrive to a more realistic. Yeah, I think a more realistic prognosis of what's happening here. It's a confluence of things always, right? Like any complicated system, it's always going to be multiple factors. But yeah, I think that what we have here in our country is basically the product of a broken culture. And I'm taking full stop. Example is it's going to be a little bit silly. Right now it is the playoffs for basketball. Oh, so we could talk about soccer too, because they do it more in soccer. But I've noticed it in basketball because I used to watch basketball a lot. There is this thing that soccer players, this is what I know, like this is where I know of flopping from, is from soccer. But there's this thing in basketball where you can basically get 2 free shots, free throws. Basically you could go to the free throw line, you just shoot some shots. I'm sure y'all know what free throws are. And you get those free throws if you get fouled in the act of shooting, or if, you know, there are too many team fouls or whatever. Like, there's this scenario where if you foul someone, they'll go to the line. Now, the NBA has changed because the offensive players understand this. So what they'll do is that they'll fake up a shot, get their opponent up in the air, and then they'll shoot it. Or they'll do the acting part where it's like they'll be driving to the bucket, and then there'll be some type of soft contact, or maybe they see the ref is in a certain position and they will overreact, some type of physical contact. And they will get a foul and they'll be allowed to go to the free throw line. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that it's incentives, right? We are no longer incentivizing people to be great, to actually do what it takes to win, to build skills and competencies, to be a meaningful contributor to our society. We're no longer producing that. What we're producing are a group of people who don't necessarily look at ethics or morals or how you should arrive to a certain destination. What they're more looking at is a result or the destination. So let me see how can I explain this? Here's a good example. My morals and my principles prevent me from selling drugs. I can make a lot of money. I could potentially make more money than I've made by selling drugs to people. I could do that. And I know that. And I think most people know that. However, I would never do it because, in my opinion, I do not want to arrive to having a lot of money via selling drugs. Just like I don't want to have to arrive to having a lot of money via selling myself, right? Like, dignity is basically what I'm getting at. There are certain ways in which I think are acceptable ways for me to earn money. And I don't think that, lying or cheating or cutting corners or like doing it the cheapest way, though, I don't believe that's the right way. I think maybe I'm more of a traditional American, mainly because maybe I was raised by that generation, where I think that you're supposed to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, whether someone's looking or not, right? Shouldn't really truly matter what the cost is, especially if you're still going to make a profit. And I think this is where, some of the capitalists, they'll probably jump off my little bandwagon I'm trying to build here, where I'm just like, hey, like, certain things I don't want. Anyway, let's keep going through the video. I just realized that I am literally 90 seconds through this 11-minute video, and I've been here for an hour. So
Frank Capra's movie It's a Wonderful Life came out in 1946. There's obviously a lot that's very different about American life. The hair, the fashions, the walkable.
How people speak has changed. I am so embarrassed to be called an American now, knowing that there are so many I don't know how you could be so dumb. Like, I just don't get it. We're in the richest country. We don't have to struggle for anything. There's no excuses. There's no excuses for anyone in America to be stupid. Well, maybe, how about this? For anyone in America to be ignorant. How about that? There's not really much of a reason to be ignorant. We have the internet. It was invented here, right? No, we have all of that. We have we have the internet. Google. This is American company. Like, we have all these things that make it possible or to enable you to accumulate knowledge. Now, I do understand that, just having knowledge and intelligence are not the same thing. I understand that. But one of them points to laziness, right? Like, it only requires work to acquire knowledge, right? Just fucking read. Like, you'll acquire it. Do some stuff. You'll acquire knowledge. But for whatever reason, here we are in our country where people hate reading. I don't understand that. People, for whatever reason, are unable to communicate in writing. I don't understand it. because I mean, I happen to know a lot of folks who speak more than one language, and as someone who is, I'm not really, I don't know, I can speak more than one language, but it's like as someone who can kind of speak more than one language, I'm always baffled by the fact that people can barely speak their one native language. It's like your mom was talking in that language in the womb. You've heard it before you came out. You've been speaking and interacting with that language from the time you were conceived. You've even gotten free education to teach you how to get the most from that language, verbally, rhetorically, or like in writing, how to accomplish certain goals. You learn all of that for free in this country. Yet we have people who can't read or write, which is it's a cultural thing. That's the only other explanation. I can't say that it's anything else. It's the culture. And I've noticed this change since I've been a kid. I'm not that old. I want to make this clear. Like, I'm not that old. And even in my relatively short lifespan, I have noticed the culture in this country drastically changed from what it was when I was a kid. I remember when Americans were proud of the fact that we had that. I'm pretty sure none of y'all have ever seen the little stamp, the Made in America stamp or logo. When I was younger, most of everything that I had and owned was made in America. And that was something that, it was, I heard it talked about a lot. It's like Made in America. We're proud. Like we're proud that we produce our own stuff. We don't do that anymore. We don't produce anything, which is scary. Yeah, but when you can't produce the things you rely on, that means that you're necessarily going to have to give up some of your power, because you're going to have to get those things that you need from other people who are going to force you to get those things on their terms, unless you are someone like Donald Trump and you choose to start a war. And yeah, we can do it that way too. But generally, this is sad.
This is the difference that gets me every time.
You said that what'd you say just a minute ago? They had to wait and save their money before they even thought of a decent home? Do you know how long it takes a working man to save $5,000?
$5,000. My grandpa told me that he bought his house for $16,000. The house that I was trying to buy was a house that was built in the 50s. It was a mid-century modern home in an area called Spring Branch. It's not the area I live in now. It's like, it's just an okay area. It's working class. Now, that house, when it was bought by the previous owner, who like they had bought it like 5 or 6 years before then, the house that I was trying to buy, they had purchased that house for $260,000. By the time I came around to trying to buy that house a few years later, they were asking for $680,000 for that house. At that time, 2018, that meant that I would have to go for a jumbo loan. I couldn't do a FHA loan for that house, even with my 20% down payment. Even with 20% down, it was just like, I think like 150, 160 grand or whatever. Yeah. I would have to get a jumbo loan, which also means that I would have to pay more in interest than a conventional FHA loan, because there are benefits and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, we went from having houses that were $5,000, and they're going to adjust this. I have seen this part already. They're going to adjust this to today's inflation rate. I'm sorry, they're going to adjust it to today's exchange rate. So we'll see what $5,000 is now.
This scene takes place in 1928. George Bailey is building and selling homes that would cost $96,000 today.
There you go. Now, just 7 years ago, in the neighborhood that I am from, which is not the neighborhood I live in now, but the neighborhood I'm from, neighborhood called Sunnyside, I could buy a house. It wouldn't be a nice house, granted, but I can buy a house for $47,000. It's in 2018. If I go to the same neighborhood, you know, I keep up obviously because there's a house there that I have now. But like, if I go to the same neighborhood and I'm looking at the houses in that neighborhood today, you will not find a house for under $350,000 after 8 years. And these aren't nice houses. These are houses in the hood. In fact, you know what? I'm sharing my screen. I can actually, we can look at some of these probably. Do that. Low key, I am amazed that the first listing that I have clicked on, I'm over here like, maybe I should buy this. Because actually, this is actually a good price now that I think about it. This is duplex, 409,000. Huh. 'Wait, what? Oh, wait, what? I'm confused. What just happened? Okay, 3, 2. Yeah. Average $2,000 a month. Shit, I forgot I don't pay for Excel anymore. So I can't actually use Excel. Wait, what was the rent? $2,000. It's 24,000. How much do they want for this house? 24,000. %5 cap rate. Oh, it's almost a 6% cap rate. 5.85. Huh. Okay. What are interest rates right now? Okay. Yeah, so that house is a little bit overpriced. I'll explain what I just did because I just forgot that I'm streaming. There's this thing that you can kind of do to be. Let me back up. I'm trying to estimate the value of that property, but I'm not going to do a full on like deep. No, what I would normally do with my Excel model. So what I'm instead doing is I'm just looking at the average rent that you'll get, which I think gross net rents or something like that. And then you can get the cap rate, which basically is telling you how much money you are going to earn on this investment. Almost, kind of, not really, but you can kind of think of it that way. You can kind of think of it for this example. You can think of it that way. And for me, something that I look at to see is if the cap rate is below interest rates as a first step. If it is, then that tells me that, oh, maybe I should go on to the next stage of valuing this property, which is where I then put it into my Excel model. And like, I'll go over like all of the acquisition costs and all that kind of stuff. Actually, that's a lot. I do that as a second stage. I have a second stage model that I'll do that for. Again, I'm not about to go through that. I wasn't intending to do that today, but I also didn't expect to land on a duplex, because I've been thinking about getting a duplex for a second. This is a hack that I've been thinking of doing. So either I can I don't know, I guess I can rent another house, which I've been, I can rent a house or another apartment, I guess, which I've been thinking about. Or given that I'm going to be paying damn near the same amount in rent anyways, what is this, $3,000, wherever the money is, I forget what it costs. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. So basically what I'm thinking is I can buy this house, this duplex. I can live in one half of the duplexes, and then I can rent out the other half for what, $2,000 a month. So that's $24,000. So that basically covers my mortgage. It almost covers my mortgage. I think I'll have another maybe $10,000 that I'll have to cover on my own as far as the mortgage goes, because the mortgage would be about 34, 35,000, 36,000. Yeah, let's just do the math. Let's just see. 2808. 2808. Wait, what was the number again? 2808. Okay. Times 12. Okay, it's 33. I was off. It's about 34,000. Yeah. So I could do something like this where, I buy this and then rent out the second half and live in one. And then when I'm ready to figure out what I'm gonna do next, I just rent out the second half, and it basically becomes a free, I don't know, it's just free. But at $409,000, this is overpriced. And the fact that this has been on Zillow for a month and no movements happened, this is telling me that, it's probably overpriced. $409,000. This was May 2026, up from 300. Yeah. I don't know what they're thinking, how they went from 397 to 409 in this economy in Houston, where people are moving. We have so many houses for sale and for lease. Oh yeah, I see what they did. I see what they're doing. They've been trying to get rid of this for some time. So they listed it for sale last year in November for $415. It's actually really cheap, $112 per square foot. They reduced the price, and I guess that was able to get them a sell, but only one thing, and I guess that fell through. That made them, some shit happen. Yeah, and they've been trying to get rid of it now, and then they just increased the price by 1.2%. I bet you what they're doing is they did this so that they can reduce it back to 405%, and so they can show that it has a loss, like a percent down, because that does attract people to like save a house or to inquire. Anyway, this is a distraction. My bad. I'm sorry for going off on a very, very big tangent.
Then it took off in the 90s when a legal loophole incentivized stock-based pay for executives over salaries.
Today, we're seeing hundreds of times to one.
As corporate profits have shifted from workers' pockets to CEOs and shareholders, the average paycheck now covers less and less, especially when it comes to housing. And in an economy where only the rich have money to spend, the price of everything goes up. Since 1980, the median home price in a lot of areas has jumped to 6, 7, 8, even 9 times what the median worker makes in a year.
Yeah, that part hurts. I remember when I was in high school, there was this neighborhood that was adjacent to my high school in Pearland. And those houses at that time, you got to keep in mind, I'm not really I'm not rich. So, or I wasn't. So at that time, that was a lot of money. Like these houses, they were $270,000. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, man, like I would love to be able to find, like, what can I do to be able to make that kind of money? Because it's just like, that's so much money. This was in 2005, 2006. And it's kind of sickening to me that from the time I left high school to the time I went to college and graduated and came back with a job, and, you know, I managed to get a job. I think by the time I came back to Houston, I was making $140,000 a year. This is back in like 2013, 2012, which is, you know, assuming the house prices has stayed the same, that's about 2 or 3 years of my earnings. But that's not what happened. When I came back, those same houses were $600,000 after 4 years at school. So it went from 270 to damn near 600. So when I got back and I had my job, thinking I'm all, thinking I'm the shit, I'm over here making my 100 and however much money I was making. After tax, it wasn't that much. And then being like, man, like I still, like I can't actually afford to get to get this house. I mean, I could, I guess, if I prioritize just that. But one thing that I've never wanted to be is house poor, because I may have experienced that when I was a kid, like what that's like. And I made a promise to myself, I will never get myself in any kind of situation in which I am unable to do the basic necessities of life due to debt load, whether that be from a car or a house or a motorcycle or anything. I'm pretty wary when it comes to signing any type of financial contract that requires me to give over my money for an extended period of time. I'm very weird about that. so I'm not really I'm not really into the whole let's just go and get a $500,000 mortgage so I can be $500,000 in debt. The way I look at it is I never need to work so long as I am not in debt. This is why I'm free. This is why I can not work for a year and a half and be like, fuck it. It doesn't matter. I have no debts. Really. I mean, I do. I have a student loan, technically. I have that. It's like $400 a month. Let's see.
Los Angeles, the cost of a single family home has now reached.
I think the goal of this video, of this stream, is going to be to get through this video. I'm 4 minutes in. I'm sorry. I always say I'll get better at this, but I never do.
11 times median annual income.
I still live with my parents, and my other two sisters still live with our parents just because, housing is so expensive. Like, who wants to say, like, hey, I'm 30 living with my parents, no one wants.
I mean, shit, that's about to be me. My mom asked, she asked me the other day. She called me, what's that, yesterday? I don't know. She called me at some point. She asked me, what was I planning on doing? Because I told her I'm moving. Maybe I haven't discussed this. Where I live was on World Star, okay? I never in my life would have thought that and when I say where I live, I'm not talking about my city. I'm talking about the legit building. My address where I live is on fucking World Star because of an incident that happened not that long ago. There was a shooting over here. All right. So yeah, I'm just like, I don't know if I want that, in my life. I moved away from the hood because I hate them. I don't care how you feel about it. I hate them. Fuck them. I moved from them so I can never have to be around them again in my life. And then what they do, they all just come to wherever I go. They just fucking show up. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to go back to the hood where I'm from, because the hood is currently being gentrified. Those ratchet ass individuals, they can't even afford to live in the hood because for whatever reason, their parents or maybe them decided to sell the house for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 and then pay the rent. Like, so like a private equity company will come in or whatever and buy the house. They'll give them like 60, 70 grand. And then they will rent those same people the house that they've been living in for 30, 40, 50 years. This is what my mom is telling me what's going on in our neighborhood. She directly knows a lot of these people who are doing it. Cause I was thinking about buying some of the houses on the street. And she said, well, like a lot of those houses, they've already been bought. A lot of the neighbors, they've already sold them. They're renting. I was like, the fuck? I'm like, so you mean to tell me you know what it is? It's the grandparents. The grandparents were the good ones. They were the ones who created Sunnyside. Like Sunnyside is a historically black neighborhood. It was a nice place in the past, thanks to my grandparents. And then they had children. And most of their children were fuckheads. Ain't do shit. And then they had children, and those children are what you would consider the hood niggas and all that. Those people. And then they had children they always have children early. So now we got a bunch of YNs and all, but they can't. What I'm saying is that they're starting to move because the taxes are going up, because the people who actually bought the homes in the 60s are now dying. And what we have here in Houston is like, if you're over a certain age, you don't really have to, your tax rate doesn't go up and you don't have to pay the property tax, or it stays at the same amount or whatever. But when it goes to the next person, the basis gets reset. So you're paying tax based on the value of the house today. You're not paying tax based on the value of the house at the time, you retired or whatever, which was way, way, way lower. Now houses in the neighborhood, as y'all saw, they're in the 300s, 400s, and I've even seen $500,000. In Houston, we have a fairly high tax rate because it's Texas. It's about 2%-ish. 2% of $500,000 is not a small amount of money. I think it's like 10 grand for the year. Most people, 10 grand is a lot of money, especially when you add on to the fact that you're also paying your mortgage and your insurance, which have all also increased. You're also paying for electric and all. You're paying for a lot of shit, a lot of stuff. Give me a second. I might have to go in a second.
Say that, but it's unfortunately a lot of people's reality.
We were promised that if you contribute to society in the form of having a job, that you'd be rewarded with a middle class lifestyle, and
see, that's a lie. As someone who has ascended to what I would consider, I'm solidly middle class. Well, no, never, not by my definition. My definition of middle class has changed. It's not necessarily based on how much money you make, but more so how much money you already have and how you go about earning most of your money, or a substantial part of your money. Generally, middle class people own businesses. So you're probably going to have employees if you're middle class. Otherwise, you're what I would call working class. Working class is the class of people who must work in order to survive, right? Like, yeah, most people in this country are working class. In the past, before our government and politicians started selling this out, America did have a large middle class, and that did make us special. But based off what I just said, like, that's basically you own a business. Most of the American economy pre-1990 was small business. So you could have a middle class, but it's damn near impossible to be middle class if you have to work. That means you're working class. You have a salary, right? And I guess the best way to know, like, which one are you in is, are you in a position where you can quit your job and I don't know, like, go and explore different opportunities, yeah, that's really it. Like, it's just basically like, it's the freedom that you have that really determines. Now, rich is, chances are you're probably going to have hundreds, maybe over 500 people working for you. You're controlling their lives directly. You're probably rich elite at that point, but anything before that, you're middle class. Turns out middle class in this country is very small. I would say it's probably less than 10% of the United States population who are truly middle class. I think we have been sold a lie in our country where a lot of people believe that they are middle class. But I only know of 3 classes. Well, I guess technically we have 4. I guess if you really want to differentiate working from poor, then I guess we have 4 classes, but like in real terms, that's not really a class. Like, like it's all the same. It's levels to working class, just like there's levels to middle class. Like, you could be a doctor making $500,000 a year and still be working class because you have to work. But you do have the type of salary that could put you into the middle class if you manage your money effectively. Just saying.
Doesn't really exist anymore.
Since the administration of Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, we've been hearing this line that we need to lift taxes on the top.
When I sign this bill into law, America will have the lowest marginal tax rates and the most modern tax code among major industrialized nations, one that encourages risk-taking, innovation, and that old American spirit of enterprise.
And here we are, 46 years later, and we are still waiting for that model of the economy to trickle down to the rest of us.
Yeah, trickle down economics, that bullshit. I've never understood. I remember I had to, when I was in high school, I think this was when I was in the, gosh, I forget what you call that. It's like the student UN. What do you call that thing? I don't know. I was on the debate team, and like one of the competitions we had, or one of the styles we had was the like the mock UN or whatever. And we talked about trickle down economics, and I had to make a case. I think I had to make a case for it. When you debate, like for real, you're often forced to debate both sides, so that if you are going to actually compete, you can be prepared. Because there's always a pro and a con to everything, right? Like, not everything is just this is bad or this is good. But yeah, I remember talking about trickle down economics, and I've always thought it was bullshit because for whatever reason, I boiled everything down to how I act and how the people around me act. And I think that I can do that because, as far as I know, we're all humans. So we have some things in common, right? So like, chances are how I make decisions and how my friends make decisions are not that dissimilar from how you make decisions and how other people make decisions. And if it were, we wouldn't have the study called economics, which is literally studying how people make decisions in aggregate, right? I remember just going through this and saying, like, it can never work because humans mostly are inherently selfish. I think that it is a learned behavior to not be selfish. But I think inherently we are all naturally selfish. Naturally. That's not to say that you are selfish. It's just to say that if we don't have a society, a culture, or like people in our lives enforcing or basically like showing us and like, I guess like socializing us to understand that, hey, like we should do things that benefit others, and it just won't happen, right? Like we'll just do what's best for us. And half of the population of Earth, that's all they do. They only do what's best for them. So yeah, the fact that, trickle down will never work. It can never work. It always trickles up. Always. I don't even understand the abstraction, like the metaphor, like trickle down. That implies that products are built top down and not bottom up. At least everything that I have come across, we build bottom up always, not top down. So for me, like this, even the framing of it, like top trickle down, like that kind of goes against nature in a sense, where like it doesn't come from up top. It comes from the earth. Like everything grows up. Things don't trickle. Anyway, I'm reading too much into it.
In San Francisco and Los Angeles, workers are fighting for a new type of tax. One that could...
Wait. This gay-ass city say yes on D?
Workers are fighting for a new...
Look at these dick riders. Yes on the D. They look like some D suckers.
Tax. one that could undo the damage done by decades of failed trickle-down policies.
No matter what, when the economy's good, when the economy's bad, billionaires are always making money.
They are being
She's
vastly
right.
outspent by
She is right.
billionaires and corporations in both cities who are terrified of what.
It's not just billionaires, though. It's also millionaires. It's also, I don't know, you call them thousandaires. Like if you have over $100,000, oh, 100 grand. But like, yeah, 100 grand. I guess that's something, right? If you have 100 grand, right? Like a 1% increase is $1,000. So if the market goes up 1% in a day, you have just earned $1,000. Well, you didn't earn it. Let's be clear. You didn't earn it, but the value, like you didn't really get money, but the value on paper of your portfolios just went up $1,000. Now just think, how many people do you know make $1,000 in a day? I'll wait. Other than me, I suppose, but like, how many people do you know making $1,000 a day? That's not a trickle down, right? Like that's your wealth being siphoned up. That's how that works. It's never going to be a trickle down.
End to their political and economic dominance might look like.
We may not have billions of dollars, we don't even have millions of dollars, but what do we have? People power, and that's how we're going to.
And they're right. And this is honestly, like, I understand what they're feeling. I get it. They are right. It is very unfair that one person, just one single individual, could overrule everything, like everyone here. That's not democracy, right? That's not fair. That's not our system of government working the way that it was designed or intended. There's no let's say, like, I don't know what their policy, like what they want. I assume that's something I'm not into, is Californian, you know? But let's just assume that, you know, it doesn't matter what they want. The fact is that it's a majority of the people who want it in that state or in that city or wherever. I don't know what they're doing, but like they want it. So they should be able to have it. It should never be the case where we have the majority of people saying what they want or don't want, and then we get one individual, or maybe let's make it even bigger. We get 100. Let's just make it unreasonable. We get 100 billionaires. There's no reason why 100 billionaires should outrank a whole community of people. I think that we should bring back, you know, certain laws of the jungle. It's like, hey, if you really think you're gonna override something, let's see you override all these bullets. See how that works. I think that's how we are going to have to solve this problem. I don't think that we're going to solve it peacefully. I subscribe more to Malcolm X's theory. I've never really been that big of a fan of Martin Luther King because of some reasons that I happen to know about him. I've always been an X man. No, Malcolm X. I've always been more on him. Like, that's my mindset. I never really bought into the whole MLK bullshit. I mean, it's not all bullshit, but some of it is. Like, they both had good ideas. I think that Martin Luther King, he has some great ideas when it comes to content of character. I like those ideas. I like that. But he didn't get into what was relevant to me, which has always been economic. Like, when we go to war with certain nations, we attack their economy. That tells me that economy is more important than other things. We don't go to these other countries and tell them that, like, they need to segregate their populations or they can't. We don't do any of that shit. We attack their economy. Economy is important. I think Martin Luther King, he focused more on the social, which is it's important, but it's only really important if you intend to integrate, which was not always the case. You know, my grandparents and great grandparents, they had their own communities. complete communities where they didn't really interact with people outside of their community. So I can't say that we need it. Anyway, let's keep on through this video. I did say I was going to try to finish it.
Hey, I'm looking for Mark. Yeah. Hey, I'm John. I'm a city worker and engineer with public.
I'm sorry that I had to pause this right quick. I just want to just kind of just reminded me of a photo. That tower. I want to show a photo that I took of that tower. I think I have it on here. I hope. Of course I don't. Of course. Is there a map? Yes. Go to San Francisco. That one. Well, this is a video, but I actually have a dope photo. It's on my Instagram. Just check out my Instagram. Hopefully this shows up right for y'all. It's HDR. So hopefully it looks cool for you, maybe. Anyway, just wanted to show the tower because I noticed. I was like, oh yeah, I know the tower.
We want to basically tax billionaire corporations, so want to keep the city going and actually improve it.
These taxes specifically target
All right, so they're talking a lot about taxes. I have a very weird relationship with taxes. My solution, if I were in power, would never be to raise taxes. I am one of the individuals who believes that we have a spending problem. I don't think that this is a income problem, like a tax revenue. I don't think this is an income problem for the government. I think this is a spending problem for the government, and increasing the taxes doesn't solve that problem. And the engineer in me wants to solve the problem, not just sweep it under the rug. The problem is we have too many entitlements in our country for what we actually produce. We do not produce enough to fund the entitlements that certain groups of people want. So it's unsustainable. And you can't necessarily increase taxes to the point to where, you're overtaxing, because you'll shrink the economy. You'll have people like me who say, fuck this. I will not participate then. I'll just leave. And I imagine that other people with the means to just leave will also leave. And that's just going to further put this country into a doom loop when you have either people with capital or people with the skill sets or the talents. When you have all of them leaving, brain drain and capital drain, that's not a good sign. That means that we are going to start suffering the same fate as countries in Africa that have been suffering brain drains for the past 20 or 30 years. Same thing with some countries in Asia, not all of them, but some countries in Asia, they also experience brain drain, as well as many countries in the Middle East, where their best and their brightest people choose to not live there, and they choose to move to either America or some other Western country. So that's probably what will happen here. If the government says something stupid, and they're like, you know what, the 36% you pay right now is not enough. We're gonna want 40. I'm gonna be like, well, I guess I just won't work. I'll have to earn all of my money through investing, where I can pay my capital gains tax, and only when I actually need the money, which there are ways around that too. You don't even have to withdraw your own money. You can take a loan out against your assets and just pay the interest, because the interest rate is probably cheaper than your taxes. Fun facts.
with massive pay gaps between their CEOs.
Oh, also, just fun fact, if you didn't know this, you do not pay income tax on loans. So let's just say, just for shits and giggles, you have $500,000, $1 million in equities, securities, whatever, bonds. What you could do and this isn't financial advice. This is not advice. This is me just saying some bullshit. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I don't know any of these things. But what I heard you can do, what I heard from some folks who are not me, what you can do is you can take out a loan against those assets. So, you have $1 million in securities and you want $100,000, but you don't want to pay taxes. So you go take out a loan for $100,000 and, pay your 4%, 5% interest rate. It's $5,000 for the money. So it costs you you get $95,000 tax free. And you get to pay it back over whatever that term, maybe it's a 2-year term, maybe it's a 12-month term. I don't know. You just pay it back over that term. It's a good deal if you can make it work.
It's taxing the people who already have the money and not putting it on people like us, the regular average voters here in San Francisco.
These overpaid CEO taxes would raise taxes at the local level on companies that have huge gaps between their CEO and their work.
See, the problem with this is that CEOs, from what I understand, based off of how I've been compensated in my career, most of their compensation isn't salary. It's bonuses or the stock price going up. So here's a good. So one of my jobs, they offered me more money than I actually needed. So what I asked for was a lower salary. Yes, I've asked for a lower salary. I'm one of those. I asked for a lower salary, but with more equity. There's a reason for that. I pay tax on salary. Why the fuck would I want to make more money to give it to the government? I already have money. Why would I do that? This is why I'm like, I don't know if what they're saying would actually work. Because it's just you're not really going to tax someone giving me shares in a company because that's not money. So you can't really tax that. So let's say that I own a corporation and it's doing very, very, very well where I can afford to pay my CEO, let's just say $5 million. As someone who understands how our tax system works, I would never pay my CEO $5 million. That's disrespectful to him. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Here's what I would do. I would give my CEO a salary of $200,000 to $250,000 a year. And then I will give him stock options. Maybe not options, maybe actual shares. How about that? Just give them shares. Or maybe I'll give them shares at a discounted rate where they can purchase the shares at a certain price that's lower than the market price. I'm not going to pay my CEO $5 million in cash. No. That's just silly. Honestly, I don't even know if I would want a CEO who would tell me they would rather have the cash than equity, because that's going to, right off the bat, that's going to tell me that they're not in it for the business, really. They're in it just for themselves. Like if I can align their interest with the interest of the company and have those incentives align, I think that's a much better deal than the opposite. All right, I think I gotta go soon. I told somebody I would be ready in 20 minutes. 20 minutes ago. Let me see if he's not ready, then I'll stay on.
They would apply only to very large corporations that are making money in these cities, and the level of tax.
Oh, you heard what she said? They will only apply to very large corporations that are working in these cities. Here in America, we have this thing called freedom of movement, right? You as an individual cannot force me as an individual to hold my property where I don't want to hold it. So my business is my property. If I do not want to do business in your city any longer, you cannot stop me, because we have freedom in our country. This is one issue that these types of cities don't seem to understand. And I only understand it because I've traveled around enough and I've seen how countries compete for, investment dollars, like basically rich people, how they compete. What they do is they create an environment that the wealthy elite want to be in. For whatever reason, these people are doing the exact opposite. They're creating an environment that these wealthy people will not want to be in. It's self-defeating. I don't think they're going about this the right way. I think they could get the results that they wanted if they looked at this as, we need to compete with every other city, every other state, every other country in the world to attract as many enterprises to our states, or to state, cities, to our states, plural, because America, cities, plural. That's what we need to be doing. But instead, no, we're over here talking about how can we tax already overtaxed people even more? As if taxes is going to solve any problems. Again, as I said, our problems are not tax revenue related. It's spending related. We spend almost $1 trillion a year just on interest. You know how unproductive that is? Interest payments? We're literally throwing money. Oh, I gotta go. He says he should. All right, cool. All right. All right, I gotta go. My bad. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow. Maybe, probably. If y'all do want to see more of this, feel free, drop a comment, and maybe that will encourage me to shut back up again. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, I gotta go. So I'll maybe be back in the future. Maybe. Peace.